Right. Hey, if you're just tuning in, we're going to get started in just a few minutes. We're going to give it a few shares, a few different places. Certainly say hello and let us know you're watching. Hi, Eileen. All right, I've shared it a few places and it looks like we've got some viewers, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Kim Baker. I'm with the Gallatin Chamber of Commerce, and we are back today with a new episode of The C Show. We've changed up our schedule a little bit. Instead of bringing The C Show to you daily, we'll be bringing it to you twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10 a.m. We're so happy to be back today with another special guest, Jenn Cook, the CFO of Reliant Realty. Welcome.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. If you're watching the C Show for the first time, the Chamber has been bringing this to you over the past, I guess, about 6 weeks now. The Chamber exists to support, educate, and engage our member businesses and the Gallatin community. And we do that by offering programs like this. And so we want to keep everybody connected during these interesting and changing times. And so we've been bringing you the C Show. Jenn, we know that real estate has been an industry that has certainly been impacted by the COVID pandemic, as most other industries have. Tell us a little bit first about Reliant and then kind of how this impact has looked for your industry.
Absolutely. So we've been in business for, almost 15 years now. Casey Brown is the owner and CEO of Reliant Realty. He also is the CEO and owner of Signature Title Services and Secure Property Management. So while we're talking specifically just about real estate as a whole today, we have exposure to different areas of the industry. So I thought I'd get started by kind of walking through sort of how we experienced the week before the pandemic and then leading from there. So the week that the tornadoes hit Nashville, kind of where I wanted to get started. We are affiliated with a national real estate brand, an international real estate brand, ERA. And we have a conference every year with ERA. It's called Fuel, with tens of thousands of real estate agents and brokers get together to reflect on the prior year and gain knowledge from industry leaders. Well, Fuel was supposed to be in Nashville in 2020. So it was a huge opportunity for us. We were very excited. We actually were hosting two different firms, one from ERA Japan and another from ERA Europe. They were supposed to come the week of Fuel, and Sean Shariati, who is our Chief Operating Officer for Reliant Realty, was planning some tornado relief volunteer efforts during that time. And then ERA Japan canceled. And then ERA Europe canceled. And then Fuel was canceled. So hindsight's 2020, but of course the cancellation makes sense when you look back on it. But as I'm sure most everyone feels living in it, was completely different. It felt absolutely surreal. So when the shutdowns began, we were very confused by the uncertainty. The Sunday, I don't know if everyone remembers the Sunday that Mayor Cooper announced he was shutting down Nashville, was probably the most stressful day that we had because essential businesses had not yet been clearly defined. And Kim, I don't know if you heard this from other businesses, but the only information we really had leading up to that time was what was going on in Italy or China. And now, again, it's easy to look back and say, while we may not should have anticipated the same type of reaction from our government, that was all the information we had at the time. So when we heard essential businesses, we're thinking grocery stores and pharmacies, and we were worried that we were going to be shut down. So luckily, after what may or may not have been some strong arming by the greater Nashville realtors, real estate and title made the essential business list, and this was a huge relief since the data tells us that real estate is vital to most any market's economy. So Casey Brown, our CEO, along with myself and some other top leadership, we decided that we did need to respond. So we sent some staff to work from home, and then the situation escalated from there, where we were no longer allowing agents or lenders in the closing room, and then we locked doors. So for us, I think as this phased reopening is happening, sort of a phased closing happened across the board. You took one measure, and then you took another, and then we ended up kind of where we are today. Anna Rowland, who is our Chief Operating Officer for Signature Title, she led fearlessly during this time. She has a staff of over 20 that not only couldn't work from home, because while we were very thankful to be considered essential, that meant we couldn't be at home. Some of the staff that could, I oversee accounting and HR, so I was able to send some of my team members home. Some of our marketing staff was able to work from home, property management and relocation. But those individuals who work for the title company still had to be there, still had to be getting closing packages prepared, still had to be sitting across from buyers and sellers at the closing table, and still had to be printing checks and getting the realtors paid. So during this time of severe uncertainty, our staff powered through like true champs and making sure that we didn't get in the way of keeping this one part of the economy running. We were and still are disinfecting tables before and after closings, using disposable pens, which any other accountants out there, when we first decided this, we have these nice, expensive Signature Title branded pens. And I was like, wait a minute, we're not throwing those away after closing. So we ordered, some of the cheap Bic pens so we could toss those afterwards. And again, we're having limited closing room activity and attendance, spacing out buyers and sellers as best we can. Because don't forget, during all of this, with the interest rates being low, we're also experiencing a refinance boom, which meant that our title company has been very busy. We're very thankful for that. But I stand in awe of our staff, because 30 days ago, everyone's emotions were a lot different than they are today. And I'm so proud of how they just powered through it. So during that same time, showings of homes started to fall week after week from the prior years. It was 28%, and then 46%, and then 56%, and then 72%. Some of our property management tenants couldn't pay rent, or they were asking to pay in installments, to pay late. Of course, we were working with our investors, our property owners, to say, hey, if your tenants can't pay, we won't charge management fees. Obviously, whenever they can recoup, we helped as much as we could. Our most important goal during this time, though, was to be sure we kept everyone on payroll, because between Middle Tennessee and our offices in West Palm Beach, we have almost 50 people, and that's 50 families. So that's been the most important goal, and I'm proud to say that we've succeeded in that. So that was mid to late March. Fast forward to early April. The adjustments continued. We began bi-weekly Zoom calls with guest speakers for our agent roster. We wanted to be sure our agents knew that even though we had limited in-office staff, we were still available to them. We had appraisers, we had the GNR CEO, and of course we had Kim come on as a guest speaker. And I have to say, don't tell the others, but I'm pretty sure that you were our best. So it was really great. Everyone was reaching out to me after the call and complimenting on how much information you brought. So thank you for that. We became accidental homeschoolers. We explored ways to work out at home. We swapped books, since libraries were closed. We searched for Lysol. And then when none of that worked, we all just started drinking way too much, which maybe everyone's been doing that. Here's to hoping that we're not alone there. That was, early April. Again, I think living in every week, each week kind of had its own level of anxiety for all of us. But in mid-April, it really started to feel like maybe some hope was creeping in. Agents were exploring creative ways to serve their clients. Open houses were strictly prohibited, but they were doing live Facebook open houses where if you had a question, go back and look at that bathroom again, and how many sinks is in the master bath, you could answer them right then and there. Agents were doing Zoom and FaceTime walkthroughs. We even spoke with an appraiser who said he's been able to continue working by simply having the property owners leave all the lights on, open all the doors before they leave, so then he can come in and safely inspect the property to perform the appraisal. And we all began to realize that despite social distancing becoming our new normal, in real estate, we are all well equipped to continue doing business. And I think as a result of that, showings started to rise. I think not only were the agents gaining confidence, but all of Tennesseans started to gain some confidence, I think, in mid-April. So our showings rose weekend over weekend, 1%, and then 4%, and this past weekend up 60%, which I think is such great news for everyone, because my hope is that that's trickling out across all industries. The Tennesseans are feeling confident. I will say we safely went out to eat this weekend. We're trying to do our part as a family, personally, to support those that are reopening as we are. This month, we only had 3 property management tenants who needed assistance with rent being reduced or delayed. And despite declining showings, we're not seeing a declining days on market, which is a great indicator that most real estate in our local economy should hold their values and weather this black swan event with minimal impact, which is good for all property owners. I can't promise that that's going to be the case, but all of the leading indicators that we're tracking are showing that we're hopefully headed toward much more positive times in May than we had in April. We have many of our staff who have shifted slightly in responsibility, making masks, covering work for other departments to cut costs. And have I mentioned that we have the most amazing staff in the world? Because we do. We've repeated to ourselves over and over, this is not 2008, which was a systemic problem in the financial industry. And the numbers are telling us that hopefully, at least in Middle Tennessee, we will start to see an upward curve toward an economic recovery soon for real estate. So I suggested we title this Be Around for the Rebound, and I have to give all the credit to our West Palm Beach staff because they came up with that, and that's what they have been selling to their agents there. And I just want to, end by saying what we have learned is positivity and the ability to see through this pandemic, to see opportunity comes from the top. So business owners, be the leader that your team needs you to be during this time. Turn off the news. Our local economy is going to ride out this pandemic in a much different way than not only other parts of the world, but other parts of the country. Innovate. How can you continue to serve your clients? And how can you identify new clients during this time? How can you pivot toward new streams of income? Just don't give up on yourself and your ability to succeed.
I think those are pretty solid tips to end with. I really appreciate that. And that's something we've been really kind of championing here is the rebound. Like, we are going to rebound, and we're starting to already. And in the days ahead, I think our economy is really slated for a strong rebound here in Gallatin and Middle Tennessee and Tennessee as a whole. And like you said, it's going to look a lot different than other areas. And so I appreciate you saying that too. And then there is certainly power in positivity. We know that, and it does start at the top. And when you have that positive influence, it kind of trickles down and others see it and others feel it. So I appreciate you saying that. We've learned in a lot of different industries, those that were already kind of tapping into some of the technology tools have really been able to be stronger over the past several weeks. I'm sorry. And we have found that to be the case, and it looks like y'all found that to be the case in the real estate industry too. I mean, I know before this, there was a lot of realtors that were already doing virtual showings and Facebook Lives of houses and just different things. Do you think that this will change the dynamics of your industry, and you see a lot more that maybe were late on board doing some of those things, seeing the value in it in the days ahead?
Absolutely. And I think that it's not to say, the relationship that you have with a real estate agent during a deal is not only very personal, but they add so much value to the deal. I kind of see a real estate agent as just the connectors to all the other parts. They can, they know the lenders, they know the home inspectors, they can help you negotiate through the deal, appoint a title company, suggest one that you use. And I think that's still going to remain. I think all of these technological tools that we're using instead of right now will be in connection with everything that we were doing before.
I agree with that. And I think that's the same. I think we've seen a lot of businesses, and like I shared when I was the guest last week, we've seen a lot of our businesses do things differently right now. Some restaurants take on additional capacities with to-go and curbside and just things they didn't offer before, but they have realized that it brings great value to their establishment. Same thing with a lot of our retailers who maybe weren't doing online sales, who are now, and saying, wow, this is great. This can be profitable. So I think we've seen a lot of positive come out of this, and we've all learned and grown a lot.
And I will say too that, again, I'm not making light of everything that's happening in the world. Please don't think that. However, how lucky are we to be experiencing this pandemic in a time where we also have the technology that allows us to continue doing business to some degree. I mean, even having social media right now has been very helpful to restaurants and retail stores so they can get out word of the way that they're pivoting.
Absolutely. I've thought that time and time again. We are very fortunate to be as connected as we are during these times. Something kind of fun that I've been asking all of our guests, and I know you mentioned a little bit of it, but what have you yourself been doing kind of to remain a sense of normalcy during this time? I think, do you have kids at home?
I do.
Okay.
I have one son.
Okay.
And he is 10. And, we've early on, so I love to make life as hard as possible for myself. So of course, whenever his school first closed, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to figure out where I'm going to get all of his books because the library's closed. I have to set him up on a schedule. I have to be a full-time teacher, and I have to be a full-time CFO, and I have to be sure the laundry gets done, just overwhelming myself with all of this negativity. And then about a weekend, again, he's 10, he's about to be 11. I realized, wait a minute, he can do a lot of this stuff on his own. So kind of what we shifted to was me not taking on all of that stress, got him a laptop ordered, and sort of just set him on, I need you to read an hour a day. I need you to work on math for 30 minutes a day. And he's kind of like a plant. Even before this, you just have to water him once a week. So he's pretty kind of does for himself. My husband already worked remotely. So, I've been very thankful that he's been able to be at home just to monitor if our son needs anything. But otherwise, his school really stepped in. I think a lot of the schools were on like a 2 or 3 week delay, sort of figuring out, because it was spring break.
Yeah.
Kind of figuring out how to navigate. We've been using Google Classroom and Zoom calls. So now his school keeps him pretty busy, and he's actually kind of shifted back into the mindset of getting excited for summer break, because he doesn't quite feel like he's getting a break right now with all the schoolwork.
Yeah, that's kind of how we are in our house, especially those first few weeks. I'm the same way. That's my personality type. I'm like, oh, we have to make this really hard. I need planned activities. I need this. And then, I guess probably about 3 weeks in, I was like, oh, there's the laundry that I've washed 3 times, days. And it's like, that's okay.
Right.
But it is, I think keeping them in routine right now gives them still something to look forward to come June 1. So.
Right. And we don't have cable. So we don't watch the news anyway, sort of just to stay plugged in. I listen and consume a lot of podcasts, specifically personal finance and real estate podcasts. And then right now, of course, I'm watching the governor's briefings when he has them every day at 3. And otherwise, we just kind of unplugged. But it was kind of odd when we went out on Sunday to go out to eat. And it was like, where is everyone?
Yeah.
It was a little slow. I think they probably picked up later on in the day.
Yeah, we ventured out last week too, we went and sat on a patio somewhere, and it's kind of a surreal feeling seeing these establishments with half capacity, and everyone kind of, everybody's kind of skittish right now. Even at the store, people don't want to get too close, which is what they should be doing, but it's kind of a weird feeling right now. So
I'm a hugger, and I want to talk to everyone. So I've been more so trying to be sure that I'm not the one being disrespectful whenever I'm getting too close to someone, at the store or a friend I haven't seen in a few weeks. I'm like, can I hug you? No? Okay, that's probably not okay.
Well, before we finish up here, is there anything else you'd like to share, just either about the real estate industry or just anything in general?
Yeah, I mean, again, just in general, remember that before all of this happened, we had an upward trajectory of new jobs coming into the Middle Tennessee area, with not only people relocating here, but also with so many industry opportunities. And we were already well positioned for growth. So even if this is a flat year, that's still going to be a success. And everything that I'm tracking is saying that we're going to be, if New York or Italy are feeling this and these are just numbers I'm throwing out, at a 50% dip, I think we're going to be closer to maybe a 10 to 20% dip. And we're going to make up a lot of that this summer when pent up demand, everyone gets out and releases. So I just think here in Tennessee specifically, we just need to stay positive and stay focused on what we were doing 60 days ago.
Awesome. Well, I so appreciate you joining us today and sharing a little bit about what Reliant's doing and what your industry is experiencing during this time. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, if you're watching still, we'll be back on Thursday at 10 a.m. We will be discussing the salon and beauty industry and talking about some of the changes you're going to see there and some of the things they've experienced over the past several weeks. And we'll also have a fun beauty tip on Thursday as well. So be sure to tune in. Jen, thank you. Everybody have a good day.